Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're actually going to be talking about Spectro Rover. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who are curious about this character. Because when we started playing this game and since launch, everyone pretty much said that you shouldn't build Spectro because it's like a sub DPS. Just go for Havoc because it's way stronger. And I'm here to tell you that that is the truth. Havoc Rover is actually one of the highest DPS characters or elements in this game, and Spectro is just as they say, it's a sub DPS, right? But how viable is this element on this character? And that's what we're here to talk about today. All right, so because I pretty much like to test things on my own rather than just like take information from someone else, ever since I started playing the game, I didn't build Havoc. It's easy to build her once you, it's easy to just put on like Havoc echoes and stuff when you have her maxed out and everything, which I do, and I do plan to do that eventually, right? But for now, I pretty much focus on building Spectro Rover. All right, so in today's video, I'm actually going to be doing a complete guide on how this character works, everything you need to know, and I'm actually going to show you 5 different builds on this character. All right, I just posted a video yesterday where I used her to fight the Thunder in Memphis solo. It was pretty fun, it was interesting, and I'd recommend you guys go and take a look at that video if you want. All right, now to do our general assessment, what is this character and how is she used? Well, first of all, this character is a sub DPS. Her damage will never be anywhere close to someone like Chang Li or Zhang Liao or even Chixia, right? These characters are DPS characters. Rover, her damage is usually between, on her own, if you play her solo, her damage is anywhere between 40k and 50k. No, not 50k. Anywhere between 40k and let's say 60k, right? Depending on how you build her, that's the most damage you'll get out of her ultimate. When you use her ultimate, that's the most damage you'll get. All right, although there's a lot of damage going around, but I'll explain it a little more as we go along. All right, so Rover is a sub DPS. She don't do huge damage in the 100Ks like all these other main DPS characters. She is also a healer, right? Where if you have her on your team, she will be able to heal your teammates when you use her ultimate. She heals everyone for 20% of her attack, her entire attack, over 5 seconds. All right, as well as she also creates something called stagnation when you use her in her outro skill. How stagnation works is you swap her out with someone else with her outro skill, and she will freeze time for 3 seconds. That's how she works. All right, right here, generates an area of stasis centered around the incoming resident, lasting for 3 seconds. So when you swap her with someone else, she pretty much like slows down time or freeze time on the enemy, and you can just get your damage in and all of that good stuff. All right, so let's do a brief overview before we reach the echoes. The echoes is going to be the last thing we're going to talk about, and I'll show you 5 different builds and explain why I did the builds and how they work. All right, so if you're going to build this character, the best weapon for her is Emerald of Genesis. This is the one that we're going to use because it's the most, this one makes getting echoes for her very flexible. All right, which is Odyssey of Beginnings. When you use her skill, pretty much, Rover's crit rate is increased by 15% for 7 seconds when casting Resident skill. So she'll always have this 15% when you use her skill, and you don't have to worry about her resonance chain. Basically, just by playing the game, you will get all of her resonance chain unlocked. All right, between doing stuff in Huanglang and taking in the science cascades to go into Hongzhen, you'll get the rest in Hongzhen by fixing a musical instrument, if I remember correctly. All right, So let's start out with, so her weapon will be the Emerald of Genesis, very flexible. There is a build I will show you with the Blazing Brilliance, but we'll focus on this one. All right. Her resonance chain, like I said, at RC1 you get crit rate, 15% crit rate for 7 seconds when you use her skill. At 2, her spectral damage bonus is increased by 20%. At 3, she gets 20% more energy regen. At 4, when casting Resonance, Liberation, Echo, and Resonance, Rover continuously restores HP for all team members' HP. All team members, right? HP is equal to 20% of Rover's attack. Will be restored every second for 5 seconds. Alright? So once you have high attack, she heals more. Alright? At 5, Rover's Resonance Liberation damage bonus is increased by 40%. Because, and you definitely need this to be doing as much as you can for her. Alright? Well, you will get it. It's not even like a question. It's something that you will get. Alright? And then Resonance Skill, Resonating Slashes, and Resonance Skill, Resonating Spin reduce the target's spectral damage resistance by 10% on hit for 20 seconds. And this is good because this is showing you that she's Spectro is really good at running with other spectral characters. All right, like Jinxie, for example, they would be a really good match together. All right, so that is her resonance chain. Next thing we're going to look at is this. This is really very straightforward. Go through it and read it. All of these, the only thing that is worth mentioning here is right here. All right, so when you get this middle chain, because this is the most important one, first of all, these will always be spectral damage increase. You get 6% in total on both sides, which would be 12% spectral damage bonus, and in the middle you get attack. You also get 12% attack on both sides. All right, in total. So the middle chain will be damage dealt by Rover's basic attacks represented echoes is increased by 60%. And this one is very important because you have to remember how this one works. And it's pretty much saying that when you use her heavy attack, Rover gains a 15% attack increase for 5 seconds upon casting heavy attack resonance. So before you use your ultimate, you should always remember to use your heavy attack and your resonance skill. All right, to get that first, the resonance skill will increase your crit rate and it will reduce their spectral resistance. All right, and then your heavy attack will give you a 15% attack bonus before you use your ultimate, which will definitely chip in and do most of the damage. All right. All right, so now that we got everything else out of the way, we're going to be talking about her echoes. All right, now before we get started on these, let's talk about the best echoes for her. And we'll actually bring up this. So the best echoes I would say would be this one, the Morian Aches, 100%. Because when you transform into the Aches, you will deal damage, and it will also increase the current character's spectral damage and resonance liberation damage. All right, so before you use your resonance liberation with SpectroRover, you should always use the echo skill. All right, another good one would be Jue, and what this one does is very interesting. It does it applies a dot, right, a damage over time. So you summon Jue to attack the enemies dealing spectral damage. The resonator can perform resonance skill to deal sustained spectral damage to the enemies over time. So after you use him, you should immediately use your skill. When you do that, you will apply a dot and they will continuously take damage over time. All right, so that's pretty much how Jue works. Another good one would be the Zigzag. This one does spectral damage and it also creates a stagnation zone, meaning it will slow down time. This might sound very simple, but I thought it was. When I used this with Rover, especially when you have Rover on team, it is insanely strong, because apart from Rover using the outro skill and slowing down time for 3 seconds, when you use this thing, it also slows down time for probably like 5 seconds. All right, so it's very strong. You can like apply so much damage within that time. All right. Another good echo would be the cyan feathered heron. This is for certain bosses though, so this one is very conditional. It depends on which boss you're fighting, because sometimes the bosses do an attack which would make them flash red, and it's pretty much the boss's ultimate attack. Let's say if you're fighting the crownless, right? If you're fighting the crownless, it has a specific attack, especially like when you're fighting the holograms, or if you're in the hazard zone, or the zone above the hazard zone. I don't remember what it's called, in the Tower of Adversity. You have to use this to stop him from doing his ultimate attack, because not only that he might kill you, you can dodge it very easily, right? If you're used to the attack, but you lose time and you won't be able to apply your DPS, and you always need to apply DPS, right, as much as you can, so you can beat the time in those towers. So this one would be a really good one, but it's very situational. If the bosses have a special attack, that's when you use this one. All right. Another thing I should mention before we get started with the echoes, guys, is that everything that I'm going to say about this character, it is just about her being played solo with no one else. All right, every number that I state is about her just playing solo with no buffs. There's no environmental buffs, there's no buffs when you're fighting against the enemy. The numbers are base numbers. She won't have any food or anything like that that would raise her numbers. All right, she'll just be like a standard character. Now granted, the numbers that I mentioned are able to go up when you run her with a buffer, like another character, a support character who can buffer, or if you're in an area that grants you a buff for the specific element, or if you eat food or use pots. All right, but none of these things are present while I'm talking about these numbers. All right, it's just her being equipped with these echoes and these weapons, and just going in and fighting without any buffs at all. All right, guys, so with that, let's get started. All right, so now that we're done with her echoes, right, now let's talk about each build. All right, and the first build I'm going to show you is the one that I currently have, and this is what I consider to be her best build if you're using her solo. All right, if you're going to use her solo to fight against a boss, let's say you want to challenge yourself, you want to do a no-hit run on like the Thunder in Memphis, or the Infernal Rider, or the Crownless, right? This is the build that you want to use. All right, you want to have the Morning Aches, right? And it can be between the Morning Aches or Jue. All right, Jue if you want to use sustained damage over time, or the Morning Aches if you just want to like get a damage buff for yourself. All right, whichever one you feel comfortable with. The next you need to go for a spectral damage bonus on your 3-cost echoes. So we would run 4 3 3 1 1, all right, to get the 12 cost. You need spectral damage bonus, and you should always be looking for a crit damage and crit rate. All right, the next one would be the Light Crusher, because he's a 3-cost, and it would be the same thing. You want spectral damage bonus. It's not really like the Light Crusher specifically. As long as you have 2 different echoes here that cost 3, then you'll be fine. All right, but make sure they are spectral damage bonus. And then so you'd use 3 or 2 pieces of spectral, and you'd use either 3 or 2 pieces of lingering tunes to get that 10% attack from this. All right, so you want them to have attack and HP, because you need your rover to have as much attack as possible. And it's just very simple. As long as you have your crit damage and your crit rate on these, you'll be fine. This one is a double defense, which is not ideal with HP, but sometimes because of how much resources we use to upgrade these echoes, we have to take what we can get. All right, so in the end we have this build. So it's I have 3 spectral and 2 lingering tunes to get 2-2. all right, celestial light, spectral damage bonus, and attack increase. All right, now over here we have 63% crit rate, and we have 282% crit damage. All right, if we should go further, we would see that we have 146 energy regen, resident skill bonus 20.2. These are usually random stuff but when you're rolling on your echoes, I wish that you can get these as high as possible. All right, we have basic attack damage 9.4, heavy attack 8.6, resonance liberation is 48.6, and down here we have spectral damage bonus, which is 102%, which is really good. All right, this is the build that I used when I was fighting the Thunder in Memphis solo, and it wasn't even this good as well, because at the end here, I only had a defense and a HP. It's only after I fought it I actually rolled on a monkey and I got crit damage, crit rate, which was really good. All right, this still needs to get fine-tuned, but I have so many other characters to build at the same time. All right, so this was build number 1, guys. Yeah, all right, so basically when you're using this, it does really good damage. This one does like the best. All right, and with this crit ratio that we have here on your ultimate hits like hits 2 times, I believe, but on the final explosion at the end, you're looking at 57k damage each time. All right, as long as you crit, as long as you do what you're supposed to do, because when you hit it with your resonance skill, your crit rate will go up to 78%. All right, your crit rate will go up to 78%. You will have that resonance, that spectral damage down on them, and then you will also, if you always remember to use your heavy attack, and you will have your 15% attack bonus, and with all of that calculated together, you will get 57k on the final explosion of your ultimate. All right, so this was the first build. Let's talk about the next one. Okay guys, so our second build that we're going to talk about it's still a hybrid build, and this is also a solo build, but this one is high crit damage with no spectral damage bonus. All right, which is a little more unique, and you would only go for this one if you don't have the echoes with spectral damage bonus. All right, so we'll use the same as before. We can have our crit damage or high crit damage morning eggs. You would go for crit damage on the morning eggs, not crit rate, because you already get crit rate 24% from your sword. All right, so you are able to go crazy with your crit damage on your echoes. All right, so you can either use your eggs or your jue with your crit damage. All right, you would have 2 pieces of celestial light, so this guy would also be attack HP, crit rate, crit damage. And then you can use another crit damage or a boss echo. All right, so you would be 44111. All right, so you'd have crit damage on this one, crit damage, attack, crit damage, crit rate, and then you have your celestial light here, and then you would have your usual 1-1 for your lingering tunes, or you can have 3 of the celestial light and 2 of the lingering tunes. All right, in this case we're using 2 celestial light and 3 lingering tunes, and then we have crit damage, crit rate, and this would also be crit damage, crit rate. All right, so now we still have our 2-piece lingering tunes, 2-piece spectral, and now our new numbers would be 63.2 to 319. All right, when you use your resonance skill, this would go up by 15, so it would become 78 by 316. All right, now this one performs, it has a really good performance, but it's a little less than our high spectral damage build. All right, so when you use everything, as in like your heavy attacks, the usual stuff, your resonance skill and your echo, when you use your ultimate at the end on that big explosion, the maximum amount of damage you will get will be between 49 and 51,000. All right, but it's a really good build. It's worth it. I do believe that there's a cutoff on the crit damage percentage at some point, and I'll talk about that in one of our upcoming builds. All right, but this build is also a possibility. So if we should go with the numbers,
let me be there for everyone as we head toward our shared future.
We have 16, 319, 146 still, 18% skill damage, 18% base attack damage, heavy attack 80%, resistance 49.4, and then spectral damage will be 42% down here. All right, so you can look at this one. It depends on what echoes you have available, but I would recommend going for the first one. All right, So on to our next build. Alright guys, so now we're going to talk about our final solo build. Alright, now this one is going to be extremely crazy because this one is the highest crit damage build I've made since I've been playing this character. Now how it works is you would have your crit damage here, right? And you would still go with 44111. You would also have crit damage here as well. You would have basically like the same echoes, but this time you would change them out for change your weapon for the brazen brilliance, all right? Or if you have another crit damage weapon. Now what this does is, apart from getting a new buff from your weapon, you would have 40% to 365, all right? And you can raise your crit rate by eating food. One is a kudzu that gives you 22% more crit rate, and there's another one that gives you 16%. All right, as well as when you use your resident skill, your crit would go up by 15%. So base is 40. With your skill, it would become 55 or 55.6. Right? No, 55.1. Now, what happened is, please do not go for a build like this. It's not worth it to get this much crit damage. And the reason I say this is because I do believe there's a cutoff at some point. All right, because if you see me with such a high crit damage, you would expect that I'll be doing way more damage than before, right? But I'm here to tell you that you don't. All right, and this is only like a theory based on like my investigations by using these builds. Now granted, your basic attacks do go up. When you crit on your basic attacks, you're hitting anywhere between like high teens, like 19k to 20k, right? But your ultimate, when you use your ultimate, the highest you get from this is 55k on the explosion, all right? Which really says something, because all of the other builds don't have this much crit damage, but they're hitting the same numbers or around the same range. So don't waste your time going for this. I think the cutoff would be around, I would say like 300%. And the reason I say that is because when you start playing this game, every character gets a base 150% crit damage. And I do believe if you double it, that would be the cutoff. All right, but that's only like a theory. I'm not sure. I've never calculated it. I don't really know how it works behind the scenes. It's just speculation, and I'm just guessing. All right. So this build, if you get it as high as this, you will be hitting the same numbers as the first build. Even though the first build hits 57, this one will hit 55. It doesn't go above 55, but your basic attacks do hit way more, with like high teens. All right, where the first build would hit between like 10 and 15 or 16k. This one hits like 19 to 20k. All right, so this is the highest crit damage build you can get on this character, but it's a waste. Focus more on your crit rate. All right, try and get more crit rate on this character. So this was the third build, and now we're going to talk about team build for her. All right, or if you should play her in a team. All right guys, so now that we have our Emerald of Genesis back on Rover, we're going to talk about her support build. All right, this is what you need to use when you're playing her with someone else. The reason that we use a hybrid build for when you play her solo is because you get 10% bonus attack. When you use 5-piece Spectro, the 5-piece will give you a bonus when you use an intro skill, right? And if you're playing her solo, you won't be able to use her intro skill. All right. So what you need to do now with this build, right? When you play her with someone else, let's say you have your Verena or you have your Jinxie, when you use her intro skill, she gets a spectral damage increase. All right. It's pretty much how it works, and will be 30% for 15 seconds. All right, guys. So when you're using her on a team, you want to run 5-piece Spectro, all right, because you get a 30% spectral damage increase. So for my base build, when I'm playing her on a team, There's two builds that I use. I use one where it's just a normal, and then I have another one where it is a higher crit damage, which I'll show you afterwards. All right. So let's say I want to use either the Morning Aches or I want to use Dewey. All right. It will be completely fine. With these, you would go for a spectral damage bonus as usual, because the character hits way harder when you have her with high spectral damage. All right, and that goes for most of the characters in this game. When you have their damage bonus on their element, they hit way harder. All right, it doesn't really matter how much crit damage they have, they just hit harder when you have them with their bonus element. All right, so this would be my build. It's 5p spectral, and with all of these, playing her solo without anyone else, she hits 52k on her own. All right, that's when you use all of her stuff, her skill, her heavy attack, her echo, and then you use her ultimate. She hits 52,000. All right, and that's the explosion on the ultimate, not when you use it, because it does damage when you use it, right? Then it goes into stasis and then it explodes. On the explosion is where you get most of the damage. She hits 52,000 on that. All right, so with that out of the way, let's look at here. We have 64 to 257, right? Oh wait, it went down to 257 because I changed out this one. So if we put back this one, because this has double crit damage on it, it would be 273. All right, so we have her 63 to 273, 63.2 to 73.8, 136 energy regen, resonance skill 24, basic attack 19.5, heavy attack 18, resonance liberation 58, spectral damage bonus is 102. All right, and then that's it for the fourth build. Let's show you the last one. All right, so the only build left to talk about is our second support build that you would use when you're playing on a team. All right, we would still go 5p spectral, but this time we wouldn't go 4-3-3-1-1, we would go 4-4-1-1-1. all right, so we'd have our crit damage here, we would have crit damage here again. This one is the only piece that doesn't have any crit damage on it, and that's only because I still haven't gotten one. But then we'd have our usual pieces that have their crit damage crit rate. All right, now with this high crit damage build, he goes up to 285, where if I should get another piece on, if I should get crit damage on this one here, she would easily go up to 300%. all right, which is a possibility. And then you know how it goes, guys. Like I said, you don't need to aim for this much crit damage, but it is possible. All right, the only problem with this one is that it doesn't have spectral damage, a lot of spectral damage bonus on it. All right, so what we have here is 63 to 285, 136, resonance skill 32, basic attack 19, heavy attack 22, resonance lib is 49.4, and 42% spectral damage bonus. When you use your ultimate, what the number that you get would be 43,000. all right, that's the highest I get using this build. I hit 43k on the explosion of her ultimate. All right, guys, so that is pretty much it for SpectroRover. Like I said, she's really good, bro. Just give her a try if you have the resource, if you find her interesting. She's a good support for Jinxie. She's really good when you use her with Verena. She can be used solo to do stuff, as in, like, you know, clear bosses. It's no problem. This was our complete guide on SpectroRover. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe, and join my Discord if you want to know when I go live on Twitch. I go live on Twitch, and I stream this game on other games. All right, So have a great day, guys. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.